Hey gorgeous, welcome to my channel Soil and Margaritas. My name is Roxana and my garden is located in Zone 6 in central Indiana. I grow a lot of flowers, a lot of vegetables. I mix them up. I experiment with some things, and since 5 years ago I started growing from seed. And today I am going to show you how easy it is to grow rudbeckia, geraniums, and petunias from seed. That way, if you want a variety, if you want something different that you can't find locally, hopefully this video helps you or motivates you to start your own from seed. But before I give you any specifics on each of these flowers, let me start with the basics. I grow a lot of flowers and a lot of vegetables from seed, but I also buy a lot of seedlings. I don't necessarily stay true to starting everything that I grow in my garden from seed. I have a room indoors where I call it my grow room, and I have 2 shelving units. I have LED lights. I have this area basically set up for all of my seed starting needs. If you want to see the specifics of everything that I use, I am going to leave a link below to an older video where I did a tour of my grow room. It's an older video, but it's basically the same thing. It hasn't really changed that much. And the containers that I use are exclusively from Bootstrap Farmer. If you have been here before, you know how much I love Bootstrap Farmer, and they are the ones sponsoring this video. If you have never heard of Bootstrap, they are a company here in the US that produce tools, produce resources for farmers mainly. But in the last few years, they have also been thinking about us small home gardeners. And I am so glad because 5 years ago, which is when I found them, I started to build my collection of pots and trays. Basically everything that you see, all the colorful containers that I use in my grow room, come from Bootstrap Farmers. And I know that a lot of people, one of the things that they say is that they are a little bit on the pricey side, and yes, that's definitely an investment, especially if you are on a low budget, but you don't have to buy them all at once. I have been building my own collection for the past 5 years, and I have plenty of everything, unless they come up with a new color and a new size, and you know, it's all over again. One of the cool things that I love about Bootstrap Farmer is that not only they sell you the products, but they also show you how to use them. They provide a lot of resources on their website. If you want to check them out, I am going to go ahead and add links to the video description, so check them out and decide for yourself. The soil that I use to start all of these seeds, basically all of the seeds, I use the same soil. It's just a good quality potting mix, the best that I can find. Something that is not so chunky, but something that is nice and soft and great quality. Believe me, spending a little bit of money on getting a good quality potting mix for starting your seeds goes a long way. And fertilizer, I feel like this is kind of like a tricky part, because while I do use fertilizer indoors when I have my seedlings there, I don't use them on a weekly basis. My seedlings maybe get 1 dose, if that much, of fertilizer before they come outside, before they are ready to be transplanted outside. Once they're outside transplanted, it's just a different routine, but for the whole time they're growing indoors, they probably just get 1 fertilizer dose. And like I said, whether I'm starting tomatoes or flowers or something else indoors, the potting mix, the fertilizer, the lights, everything is just the same. Okay, let's start with petunias. Petunias is definitely something that it has been new for me, starting from seeds for the last couple of years. Every time I try a new seed, especially for flowers, I feel like I have to grow it and kind of take notes and see how they do in my conditions indoors. And then from there, I'll tweak for the following years. It's not something that I start right away and then just come out really nice the first time. Last year in 2023 was my first year starting petunias from seed, and I started them about 12 weeks indoors like the package advised. They did well, but they definitely grew really quickly. They love the heat, they love everything that I was doing indoors for them, and they just grew. And they became a huge mess by the time that I was ready to put them outside. And it was definitely way too much time indoors. So this year I started them about 9 weeks indoors. I went a little bit less time indoors, and that really worked really well for them. They still grew, they got big, but they weren't as big as the year before, and they're doing amazing. All of the seeds that I'm going to show you today, I started them in bunches, meaning I don't start each seed in each container. I basically use 1 container, which is a 5-inch tray, and I just throw a bunch of seeds, and whatever seeds germinate, whatever seeds do well, they'll be moved into their own container. I have 2 areas in my garden where I am growing petunias. I have 3 of these plants in my very small window box. The window box that I have there faces the full sun, So they absolutely love that. They just love this spot right here, even though it's very, very small. And I do make sure to give them water almost on a daily basis. They love it here. This type of petunia, this double madness burgundy, I got the seeds from True Leaf Market. And they are doing quite well here. They grow a little bit different than most petunias. They started by growing really, really tall, almost like a normal bush. And once they were really heavy, they just kind of fell down. And first I thought, okay, maybe next year I have to give them some type of support. Maybe this type of petunia isn't the type that just kind of hangs down like if you had them in a basket. But after they kind of went down and flat, they started developing the flowers and some sort of vines along the stems, and they look beautiful right now. They have this cascade going on, and I'm all about it. They could probably benefit from deadheading, but I just don't have the time to do it. The blooms, the double blooms of this type of petunia is just gorgeous, you guys. The deep burgundy is just a nice color. It's just a nice shade of moody color here that I just love. And these petunias here in this window probably have had 2, possibly 3 doses of fertilizer. I use a fertilizer that you dissolve in water for some sort of annuals. I am not married to one. I just grab whatever I can find locally, and that's pretty much how well these have been doing. They love it here, like I said. I definitely going to be repeating this kind now that I know how it grows. I'm definitely going to be using it in different areas so that it can give me that wow factor like you can see here. I also have it on another side of my garden, on the west side of my house, where they only get full sun after the afternoon time, and they are doing well. I did have to give them a huge prune early on in the season because they were just blocking the path here between the 2 planters, and obviously I didn't want that. But now, like I said, now that I know how they grow, it's just going to be amazing for next year. Again, these double madness burgundy seeds for the petunias that I'm growing, I got from True Leaf Market, and there are tons of places where you can buy your seed. There is Johnny's, Baker's, Botanical Gardens, Park Seed, Pine Trees, all kinds of places. I am not married to one company. I just purchase the seeds wherever I can find them, whoever has them for the best price. That's pretty much it. Petunias are very, very easy to grow. So if you want to try petunia seeds from next year, this is definitely one that you can do. Rudbeckias. The next one on the list is rudbeckias, and I love rudbeckias. I think that they're just an amazing flower that I don't see a lot of in other people's gardens. They're very easy to grow. Again, this is my second year growing rudbeckias. Last year I grew 2 types. I grew Sahara and Brandywine, and I love Sahara so much last year that I just had to repeat it. This year I went with Sahara as well, and I am getting a lot of mixed colors again this year, but let me show you how well they grow. In 2023, I started rudbeckias about 10 weeks before my last frost date. That was amazing. That was the perfect time to start them, and the plants grew. They grew really big actually. So by the time that I took them outside, they were big plants, and I got blooms really quickly. This year in 2024, I started them about 6 weeks later, only because I had a vacation in there and I didn't really want to be dealing with smaller seed. It was a personal decision to start them later, and they were definitely on the smaller side. Rudbeckia definitely takes a little bit of time to get going. I feel like once the seeds germinate from Rudbeckia, they stay on that holding phase until they actually start growing. So because of that, I definitely had the blooms later this year versus last year. And I am going to go back to starting them at the 10-week mark for the following years, just because I do want to see the blooms a lot sooner. Again, Rudbeckia, I started them in the 5-inch tray. I put a bunch of seeds in there, and whatever germinated got moved to bigger containers, and on and on. They probably just got 1 dose of fertilizer like everything else. I didn't really have any problems growing rudbeckias from seed. As long as they have heat, they have a good potting mix, and you give them plenty of water as they need it, then I feel like they're one of those flowers that is just really easy to grow. I mentioned that last year I grew Sahara because I just love the combination of colors and mixes of colors that I get on each bloom, and this year was no different. I got all types of colors, of sizes, and even some shapes of these Sahara mix that I just love. And I know that some people grow rudbeckia in their gardens and they come back each year. For me, here in central Indiana, in my zone 6, we were 5 up until last year, they don't come back. They don't really come back for me, and that's okay, because they're so easy to start from seed, and it's something that I'm just going to be doing repeatedly year after year. I get so many colors. It's just amazing to me how one can be so different from the other, and they do sometimes get a little bit bigger than others, and I do have to give them a little bit of support, especially in those early times as they get going, because otherwise they'll just be flat on the ground. So if you have some sort of way to give them a little bit of support, they're definitely going to love it where you put it. Put them on a sunny space and they'll do great for you. The rudbeckia seeds, the Sahara rudbeckia seeds that I got this year, I got them from Johnny's, but I know that bakers and possibly pine trees have them. And again, you probably can find all types of colors and varieties from rudbeckias. For me personally, Sahara does it. It has all kinds of colors. I just love them. Lastly, we have geraniums. Geraniums, just like coleus or jalapeno peppers, are so slow to grow. They're just take their sweet time indoors to get going. They're not picky, believe me, they're just very, very easy to grow. They just require time. The variety that I have in my garden this year is called Maverick Violet, and I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with this color because it is very bold, it is very bright color, but it's not my favorite, so I don't know if I'll repeat that one again. I got the seeds from True Leaf Market, and again, geraniums, just like the petunias and the rudbeckias, I started them in bunches. I get a 5-inch container, I throw the seeds in there, and then hopefully a couple of weeks later, when they are big enough, I move them into their own little container. Geraniums, like I said, are very, very slow to grow, so you definitely have to just wait until they get going to move them up to a bigger container, and then from there you just kind of have to keep them well watered and in a well lit room, and they don't really require that much. I don't know how else can say that they're really, really easy to grow. This is probably my 3rd year growing geraniums, and I started them about 12 weeks before my last frost day, because they're going to get big. You can really start them 6 weeks before if you want to, before your last frost day, but they're going to be like super, super tiny plants. I like to grow my seedlings big before they're actually outside transplanted. So I definitely go on the heavy side, but believe me, geraniums are definitely going to be small, especially if you start them 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. 12 weeks is definitely the sweet spot for me. This year, I decided to add some of those geraniums to my huge planters where I have my dahlias, coleus, and petunias, dahlias, celosia, and they're pretty much being smothered by everything else here. I love the foliage. The geranium leaves are definitely one of a kind, and I just love to add them here. It doesn't matter if they don't bloom that much. As long as the foliage is there, I'm all about it. Where they're really shining is where I have them in my cortenstill planters on the west side of the house. I have a bunch of zinnias there, and they are loving it. All of that is just fresh potting mix that they are growing in, and they are just loving it. I have 3 on each container, a total of 6 plants here, and they're definitely filling in that space. Like I said, I am not so crazy about the color of the blooms. I really haven't found a color of geranium that really, really speaks to me, but there's always next year. These seeds, the geranium Maverick Violet, I got from True Leaf Market, and like I said, you can find them in other places. I know that Johnny for sure has some too, but if you have a favorite company where you get your seeds, more than likely they're gonna have geraniums. So that is it for this video. I hope that you got inspired, and hopefully you get to try some, if not all, of these seeds next year. If you have any questions about any specific thing that I talk about in this video, just let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. I do have a lot of videos on how I start a lot of seeds, and I will see you on the next time.